Hey, welcome back. And if you're new here, my name's Christina Kent and I'm an artist based out of San Francisco. And today I want to give you a tour of my latest sketchbook. Unlike some of my other sketchbooks, this one took me about a year to finish, which is kind of a long time for me. Usually I finish sketchbooks in about a few months, but this past year I was doing a lot of studio paintings, and also for a little bit I switched to a charcoal sketch pad rather than the sketchbook. So it took me a little bit longer to finish, but it's pretty cool because you get to see kind of the transitions of my art and the ideas that I was working through over the past year. I think whether you are a longtime artist or you are kind of dipping your toes into drawing and painting, starting a sketchbook is just such an easy way to get into it, to keep your ideas fresh, to experiment, and to try new things. So it's a practice that I recommend for anyone interested in drawing and painting. A lot of the sketches in here ended up turning into or informing my studio paintings, so I am really excited to share them with you. And just as a quick note, this video isn't sponsored by anyone, but if you want to support my work, you can check out my available paintings on my website, you can like, comment, subscribe to this channel, or you can join my Patreon. All of these things really help. Okay, let's check it out. Okay, so here's the sketchbook. As usual, this is a Moleskine art sketchbook, pocket-sized, my go-to sketchbook. And I started this one in, I believe, March of 2023. So it's been about a year since I started this sketchbook. And yeah, let's see what's inside. Okay, so first we have some value studies. This is based on some pictures I took of this old house that was kind of looking a little decrepit. And I just really liked the shadows that were hitting the roof of the house and the really cool, strong geometric shapes that it created. So I want to do these value studies to get a sense of the feeling of those shapes and to try out different compositions potentially for a painting. And then here's a study in acrylic gouache. This is based on when I went to the beach in Santa Cruz, close to where I live, and it was right around sunset and the light was just hitting the water and giving it this beautiful glow. So I wanted to capture that. I wasn't sure if I wanted to do like a full painting of it, so I just wanted to see if I could kind of capture that lighting in this little study. And then here is another value study. This is based off of some houses in my neighborhood on a nice sunny day. So you can see in this sketchbook, I do a lot of these value studies. I was going to do another one over here, but I guess I forgot. And then here are some more sort of color studies of the landscape. Both of these are very, muted colors. I think this was from around Mount Tamalpais, just north of San Francisco. And here's another view of the beach. Yeah, both using sort of muted colors, grays, kind of the view of a landscape or seascape on a really foggy day. And then here I went to the De Young Museum, or no, it was actually the Legion of Honor in San Francisco, which is one of our art museums. And it had these two really cool statues. This was a bronze statue and this was a marble statue. So I sat down in front of both of these and tried to sketch out where I just saw the light and the shadow. And it was really interesting because the bronze shadow, most of it was very dark and then it just got hit by a few highlights. And then of course the marble shadow or the marble statue had a lot more light in it. So it was cool to see that contrast and to get practice drawing things from life. I wanted to incorporate more life drawing into my sketchbooks and I still kind of want to keep trying to do that more because I think it's just such a great way to study. And so when I go to museums, I usually try to draw some of what I see. Here's another sketch from life. This is of Maury Point, close to Pacifica in California. Once again, just trying to quickly capture where the light and shadows were falling. And then in April of last year, I went to Italy. So this is Civita di Bagnoregio. It's a very cool kind of medieval looking town that's on this big cliff. And it was all kind of in shadow. So the cliff was kind of coming up, surrounded by the landscape. And it was kind of getting hit by a cloud. So I just kind of wanted to capture and suggest some of the shapes of the town and get this feeling of this like shadowed mass arising from the earth. Here's another value study. This is in Florence, and what really captured my eye was this was around golden hour and the sun was setting, and so the buildings were casting these strong shadows, but then you had some of the buildings were still being hit by the sun, just illuminated and kind of glowing. I was thinking about doing a painting of this. I might still do a painting to get that glow, that golden color of the buildings being hit by the light, because I think it's a very interesting collection of shapes, these shadow shapes of the rooftops and then the part that's being hit by the light. This is another study from life. This was a statue that I found in Rome. And yeah, I liked the kind of shapes of the cloth that's circling around her face, and kind of her expression was really interesting too. Here are more studies of statues. Some of these, I think this one is based on a photo. I think this was one of the statues near the Trevi Fountain, which is a very famous fountain in Rome. And then these are two statues. So I think sketching statues is really fun and can be great if you are trying to learn how to do portraiture, because it really simplifies the face into light and shadow. So I love sketching statues for that reason. And then this one is the statue of Moses that was done by Michelangelo. And this one I sketched from life in Rome. And it was maybe like one of the most amazing experiences of my life to be able to look directly at a Michelangelo sculpture and sketch it. Although I will say, if you go to Rome and you see these sculptures, you won't be able to get up close to them. You usually have to stand a little far away. So it's easier if you want to get some detail to just take a photo and draw from that later. But still, the experience of drawing it from life was pretty wonderful. Here's another sketch I did of one of the statues at the Trevi Fountain. And just look how beautiful and amazing the abstract shapes created by the shadows are on the face and the beard of this statue. I just thought it's so cool. It just, if you look at it one way, yes, it's a face, but then if you kind of just focus on these shapes, it becomes this really interesting, really almost like rhythmic, collection of shapes that I just really enjoyed. And then here's some studies of some little farmhouses, really enjoying just the simplicity of the shapes and the shadows in these ones. You can see how it's just so much quieter and much more peaceful than, say, something like this. So a nice change of pace. Also was really enjoying just this large farmhouse that was in shadow, casting that dramatic shape. Then turning to the landscape, here are some landscape value studies, just of the landscape around California. And yeah, when I do these studies, I'm just focusing on what are the different shapes that I'm seeing, which compositions seem the most interesting to me. Because I think if it works as a small thumbnail sketch like this, then probably if I turn it into a painting, it'll be an interesting painting. At least it'll be on a solid design. And so when I do these thumbnail sketches, that's kind of what I have in mind. This is a drawing I did of a eucalyptus tree, and what I really enjoyed was the super bright white of the bark that was reflecting the sun, and then these softer forms of the leaves. But yeah, I liked the feeling of the branches, these white branches weaving through these patches of leaves. It was just very beautiful. And then here are some studies of a painter I really like named Erin Spencer. She does these beautiful landscapes, and she does amazing clouds. Here you can see some subtlety in the colors of the clouds, and that's what really drew me to that painting. So yeah, she's a great landscape painter that's worth checking out. Here's another drawing from life. I went to Ireland, and here you can see the cliffs of Moher, which are these spectacular, huge cliffs that they have in Ireland. And yeah, they're just very awe-inspiring, very hard to capture in a small sketchbook, but I thought I would give it a try. And I kind of enjoyed this swooping composition here. Here's another study of a landscape by Erin Spencer, or more of a cloudscape, I should say. Really incredible cloud formations that she creates in her paintings. And then here's a little value study of a flower shop in San Francisco. And then here is a study of a demo. I took a painting workshop last year with Claudia Rilling, and so here's part of one of the demos from that workshop, just trying to get studying like the greens in the landscape and the colors of the landscape for another painting. Then these are some more landscape value studies, once again trying to work out some compositions. I think all of these could work well as paintings. I ended up making a painting out of this one, but I think these other ones could also work out quite beautifully. And then here are some drawings from life. So some of my friends were visiting and we went to the beach. So I was trying to do some quick gesture drawings as they were playing pickleball and trying to draw some people on the beach. And then here, this is one of my friends. She was getting hit by the sunlight, but had this hat on that was casting a really cool shadow. And then here's a drawing of my other friend who was just soaking up the sun. Then here's a value study in paint of some houses in San Francisco. So you get the classic bay windows, San Francisco houses, and just these really dramatic shadows. Then here is a no-tan study of the streets of San Francisco around the Embarcadero, where we have these palm trees, and this is close to where the ferry building is in San Francisco. But yeah, this is just about breaking it into black and white to get a sense of the overall design of the painting. Here are two self-portrait studies. It's interesting because I don't think either of them necessarily looks that much like me, but when I do these self-portrait studies, I'm usually kind of using my face more just as a model, as a way to study the face rather than trying to create a likeness. And I'm just looking a lot at the way that the shadows fall on the face. And with these in particular, I wanted to experiment with colors. So seeing how different color palettes felt, where I have this teal shadows, I'm using kind of the same beige for the skin tone and light. And then this one I have this bright pink background versus this one I kind of flip the colors. And it's just really interesting to see the mood that's created by these two very different color palettes. Here is a very extreme sketch I did. It was from the summit of White Mountain in California, it's above 14,000 feet, so very high up. It was a really hard sketch because it was very windy and cold, but a fun experience to try to capture the views of the mountains from the top. And then here are some more cityscape scenes. This one I ended up doing as a painting for my solo show. And then here's another idea. Maybe I'll still turn this one into a painting because I really just looking at this thumbnail, I feel like, oh yeah, that could be really nice. I like a lot of the shapes that are going on there. Here are two more self-portraits. This one is more based on using drawing lines rather than trying to show light and shadow. One thing I was thinking a lot about last year is like how to use line in my work rather than using shapes, because my paintings are more like this. They're very shape based, and so then I was thinking, well, what if I focus more on just line and see where that takes me? Then here are two studies. I saw a bunch of old photographs that my grandparents had, old family photos. And so I was looking at a lot of them and they just had some great compositions. So here's studies of two women sitting together, and I liked the contrast of their hair and the dresses against the background. And then here are some women who are swimming in a lake or something, and I just thought that the composition and the shapes were really interesting. Here's another study from life. So yeah, so I was still trying to do, actually both of these are life drawings, just trying to get back into the habit of drawing from life, or really build up the habit, because it's something that I've always wanted to do more of, but I find myself I find myself doing more just paintings from photographs and drawings from photographs. So yeah, so I've been trying to do more of this life drawing practice. So this was an orange tree in my friend's backyard, and then this was just a chair in a waiting room. So I had some time, thought I would just draw this chair. It was an interesting shape. But yeah, so I mean, and I hope one thing that I show is like you can draw anything anywhere. Anything is great practice. Like this chair, great drawing practice. No subject is too humble. Then we were at a wedding and there were some mariachi bands, so I tried to draw them, but I was a little too slow. Still working on being able to draw people from life while they're moving. But then here I was wanted to practice from some of the greats, so this was a sketch based on a John Singer Sargent painting. And then here are some more value studies from my neighborhood. This one I ended up turning into a painting, and like I was just so happy with the very simple but very beautiful shapes that we've got going on here. I just think it's like such an interesting composition, even though the subject is very simple. It's just a house at the end of the street. But these shapes, like they're so dramatic, and I think there's something so compelling about them. And I was really happy with how the painting turned out. And then yeah, here's another one. Also got some interesting shadow shapes going on cast onto the street. And I like the little spindly power lines. Then this one, I was just experimenting with some abstract doodling, playing around with the different colors and seeing how the paint would respond, like testing the different edges, how we can get some of these more diffuse edges and then have some sharper edges around here, seeing how the shifts in color would respond to each other and how the colors interacted. And then here's another master copy. So this one was studying Monet, and what drew me to this image, I just loved the greens, and then you have kind of the pink of her dress and some of these soft colors of the light reflecting into her dress and onto her face. And then this one was also another kind of value study, focusing mostly just on the foliage of these plants. And once again, like I just think it's such a simple subject matter, just leaves of these plants on a sunny day. But I just thought that the shadow shapes that were being created were just so interesting. And I hope you can see from this, like, yeah, it's just such an interesting collection of shapes, of forms. So I really enjoyed that the contrast and all these kind of quirky, strange lines that are appearing. And then here are two self-portrait studies. Once again, just trying to keep things really simple and focus on the light and shadow shapes. Yeah, as you can see, that's my main theme with this whole sketchbook. But yeah, it's just a constant practice, like constantly trying to figure out how can I turn these things into simple shapes. It's not like you figure it out once and then you know how to do it forever. I just need to keep doing it, keep working on it. And then here's a painting based on a foggy day in San Francisco. And so I wanted to kind of capture the colors of the fog and also the vibrant green grass. Sometimes I feel like on foggy days, the grass and the trees, some of the greens just really pop out and are so vibrant. And I ended up turning this one into a larger painting after doing this study. Here's another study of the landscape in California. These are actually like two separate landscapes, but they actually kind of almost look like they could be one, which I think is funny. And I just really loved the contrast between the blue and the green here, how they're almost the same value, but the blue almost, I don't know if it really shows up on the video, but when I look at it, it's almost like vibrating with color. And then here are two more cityscape value studies, trying to get really quick with these, keep them very loose just to get the basic idea of where the lights and darks are. And then here is a sketch I did of the Blue Boy. So I was so excited. I got to see, I think it's Thomas Gainsborough. who did this very famous portrait painting of a boy in blue on an orange background, or a warm kind of brownish orange background, which was very, I think, unheard of in his time, because usually if you paint like things in blue tend to recede and warmer things tend to move forward. So to paint a portrait of someone in blue against a warm background was kind of like flipping the script a little bit. So it's a very important portrait, and so I was really excited to see it and definitely wanted to sketch it while I was there, get to observe it directly from life. So this finishes off my sketchbook. As you can see, kind of following with the theme of most of these sketches, once again, I'm looking back at light and shadow and the simplified shapes that they're creating. And also with this one, playing around with color, trying to see how here this one's kind of a red and green composition versus this one is more of a blue and orange, just to see how those colors work in this small format, and thinking about maybe what I would do if I turned it into a larger painting. So yeah, there you have it. These are all my sketches over the past year. As you can see, lots of color studies, lots of drawing from life, which I'm really excited that I've been doing more of that lately, and lots of just exploration of light and shadow and how to create simple forms from these very complex scenes of real life. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you really enjoyed this video and that I gave you some inspiration for your own sketchbook practice. Let me know if you have any questions about my sketchbook practice, or if you have a sketchbook practice of your own and what that looks like for you. And as always, a huge shout out to my supporters on Patreon. Y'all are amazing. Thank you so much for supporting this channel and making these videos happen. And if you like my art, if you like my videos, and you want to help me make more, check out my Patreon at the link. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.